Welcome. On the eve of summer solstice, as we gather together to commemorate Juneteenth, which was first celebrated as Emancipation Day in Galveston, Texas, 1865. As we enter into this shared space with all our differences and all that we are, let us remember the words of Kevin Wiley from his essay, Your Life Matters. Right now, we as Unitarian Universalists are being called to act. We are being called by our ancestors, those who demanded that we help end slavery, that we fight for suffrage, that we join the struggle to end Jim Crow, and that we listen to and honor Black Power. Lydia Maria Child and William Lloyd Garrison are calling us. Lucy Stone is calling us. Fannie B. Williams and Frances Ellen Harper are calling us. James Reeb is calling us. Viola Liuzzo is calling us. Guided by that enduring, unfulfilled promise of the belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, ours is a faith that has said, or has worked to say, to those who have been marginalized, you are a woman and your life matters. You are gay or lesbian and your life matters. You are transgender and your life matters. You are bisexual and your life matters. You have a disability, and your life matters. You were not loved as a child, and your life matters. You struggle with depression, and your life matters. Right now, we are being called by our ancestors, by our principals, by young Black activists across the country to promote and affirm. You are young and Black, and your life matters. You stole something and your life matters. I have been taught to fear you and your life matters. The police are releasing your criminal record and your life matters. They are calling you a thug and your life matters. Our ancestors, principals, and fellow humans are calling on us to promote, affirm, with deeds and words, Black lives matter.
In this time of great pain and struggle, we offer libations to those ancestors. Ancestors known and unknown, existing in all bloodlines, who answered the call of justice and freedom, and whose lives were a gift to those of us coming after. Frederick Douglass, James Baldwin, Martin Luther King Jr., and many more. I invite you to speak the names that come to your mind as this libation is poured.
All whose boast it is that we come of foremost brave and free. If there breathe on earth a slave, are we truly free and brave? If we do not feel the chain, when it works on others' pain, are we not base slaves indeed, slaves unwilling to be free? Is true freedom not to break fetters for our own dear sake, and with leather not forget we owe humankind a debt?
Hello, my name is Pam Illar. The Slave Auction by Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, 1825 to 1911. The sale began. Young girls were there, defenceless in their wretchedness, whose stifled sobs of deep despair revealed their anguish and distress. And mothers stood with streaming eyes and saw their dearest children sold. Unheeded rose their bitter cries, while tyrants bartered them for gold. And woman, with her love and truth for these in sable forms may dwell, gazed on the husband of her youth, with anguish none may paint or tell. And men whose sole crime was their hue, the impress of their Maker's hand, and frail and shrinking children too, were gathered in that mournful band. Ye who have laid your love to rest, and wept above their lifeless clay, know not the anguish of that breast, whose loved are rudely torn away. Ye may not know how desolate our bosoms rudely forced apart, and how a dull and heavy weight will press the life drops from the heart.
The Monticello plantation was a complex community dependent on the labor of many people, especially its enslaved field hands, artisans, and domestic workers. Enslaved people worked from sunrise to sunset 6 days a week, with only Sundays off. They observed Christmas, Easter, and Whitsun 7 weeks after Easter. Thomas Jefferson supplied slaves with clothing or cloth to make clothes twice a year and with blankets every 3 years. When couples married within the Monticello community, he gave them a cooking pot, a sifter, and a burlap sack to make a mattress. Slaves worked in their limited free time to earn money to acquire additional goods. Each enslaved adult was provided weekly rations of a peck, which was 8 quarts, of cornmeal, a half-pound of pork or pickled beef, and 4 salted fish. To augment their rations, enslaved families grew their own vegetables, raised poultry, and hunted, fished, and trapped other animals for food. Several extended families lived in slavery at Monticello for 3 or more generations. Among them were the families of Elizabeth Hemings and her children, Edward and Jane Gillette, George and Ursula Granger, David and Isabel Hearn, and James and Philip Hubbard. Like others across the South, Monticello's enslaved families resisted slavery's dehumanizing effects by striving tirelessly to maintain family bonds, protect and nurture their children, and create rich social, cultural, and spiritual lives that flourished independently of Jefferson. When Thomas Jefferson died on July 4th, 1826, he left a debt of $107,000, over $1 million in today's currency. Despite his efforts, the plantation was unprofitable and its expenses were heavy. He died believing a public lottery would raise the money to keep his daughter, her family, and the enslaved workers at Monticello. 6 months after his death, his executors were forced to sell the land, the house, and its contents, and 130 enslaved men, women, and children. Families who had served the Jeffersons for nearly 60 years stood on the auction block on a cold January day in 1827. Only 7 people were spared, the 5 whom Jefferson freed in his will: Burwell Colbert, Joseph Fawcett, John Hemings, Madison Hemings, and Eston Hemings, and 2 whose informal emancipation he had recommended, Sally Hemings and Wormley Hughes. Sally Hemings was never formally freed. Names being read today were enslaved families on the Jefferson plantation in 1810. Their names are inscribed by Jefferson himself in his farm book. Sadly, most are only referred to by their first names. Their last names are lost in history.
Burwell Edwin, Eddie, James, Maria, Patsy, Vaughn, Ellen, Jenny, Krita.
Dolly, Harriet, Madison, Eston, Betty Brown, Robert, Mary, Peter Hemmings, Nance, Mary,
William, Davy, Celia, Tucker, Ursula, Joe, Anne, Dolly, Cornelius, Cretia,
John, Randall, Henry, Millie, Lilburn, Jerry, Bagwell, Indridge,
Lorana, John Hemmings, Lewis, Davy, Shepherd, Abram, Joe, Moses, Davy, Thurston,
James Lou, Phil, Nace, Sanko, Beverly, Jerry, James, Barnaby, Warmly, John.
Ned, James, June, John Bedford, Bardette, Isaac, Isabel, Brimton, Lovilo, Amy,
Jenny, Aggie, Israel, Moses, Suki, Jenny, Isabel, Doll, Isaiah.
Bagwell, Caesar, Ben, Phil Hubbard, Ned, Nick, Gil, Abram, Minerva, Virginia.
Esther, Nanny, Willis, Archie, Gordon, Mary, Washington, Rachel, Eliza, Ellen.
Nancy, Phinia, Dolly, Lillian, Stannard, Lucy, Evelina, Lewis.
Charles, Lewis, Davy, Bedford, Aggie, Polly, Sally, Scylla, Jamie.
Meditation by Stephen Kendrick. We are here to face the truth about ourselves, about this faith we love, and the ways it presently serves others and the world, as well as to open ourselves to ways it can better and more joyfully reflect our potential and core values. We want to know ways we are bound to one another, as well as to larger religious movements, normally beyond our sight and vision. We say we are open and diverse, yet it is too easy to feel stuck in old paths and stubborn habits reflecting not so much tradition as our comfort. We want to answer the call to service to a world that needs our message, our hope, our revived energy. We are gathered to learn to unlearn, to hear and to move forward. Amen and blessed be. Now let us enter into a quiet meditation.
We call on our ancestors, our UU ancestors, our blood ancestors, the ancestors of this land, to guide this process from above, below, and in between, cleansing and rejuvenation of love and light. So we begin this cleansing process. We start with the entrance, cleansing those that enter, those that leave, those that imagine the process of all the good that happens through these doors. Start with our spirit room, guide this process of all the love, all that's good. Start here. Those of you at home, because then is now and now is then. In this dimension of work, it doesn't matter. Time does not matter. So imagine what you would like to fill this space with. It could be a light. It could be flowers, it could be a song, it could be sound. You choose. Cleanse the pathway. Cleanse the kitchen. And now we come to our second and third grade room. Again, you choose at home what you would like to fill this room with, that it be of love and light, a sound, a color, flowers, animals, now we come to our fourth and fifth grade room. Again, make your choice. These children are wise and ready for a transitioning. You may want to choose a word like knowledge, respect, kindness, flexibility, love, nourishment, energy of all that Mother Earth is giving us here with the sand and the charcoal and the leaves. Feel humbled and grateful for this human interaction.
Spirit of life, great mystery, we rededicate this building to the work of justice. In this building, we will continue to learn, continue to forge connections with one another, and continue the unending work of dismantling racism and all forms of oppression. We know that there will be missteps along the way, and we rededicate ourselves to facing our errors with open hearts and humility, ready to build the world we dream about. So may it be, blessed be.
A Prayer on Privilege by Rainey Dunkel. Merciful Spirit of light and love, I claim your promise to be with us when 2 or 3 are gathered. You know that each of us has a unique heart and history, and so I can only speak from what I have seen and known and become as one who enjoys the privilege of being born white in the United States. As I try to understand the ways in which I benefit from that history, or deprive others of life and happiness and all the things I take for granted, I pray that you will open my heart, my mind, my imagination, and my eyes to see this country as it is, and not as I want it to be or think that it is. Even as I utter the words with the best of intentions about the poor, those who are dispossessed, those who are disrespected, those who are subtly or overtly treated as less than, those who fall in that thoughtless, painful category of you people, I feel that I am distancing myself from these others and contributing further to the fissures that divide all of us from each other. Help me to acknowledge honestly the ways in which white privilege in America is perpetuated, the ways in which racism thrives systemically, and the ways in which our common prayer furthers these divides. Dear Spirit, I trust you to guide us in our common life and enlighten us to the injustices of white privilege in this country. Make our common prayers occasions for you to break into our hearts and lives, that we may finally see our world with a glimpse of love and light. I pray that we may all be healed of our hurts and divisions, so that we may become agents of reconciliation and peace for this world. This is my prayer. Amen.
Because of those who came before, we are. In spite of their failings, we believe. Because of and in spite of the horizons of their vision, we too dream. Let us go remembering to praise, to live in the moment, to love mightily, to bow to the mystery.